On R&B Reviews, I'm doing my last review for me and Brendan's Halloween rants on scary movies. And the movie I'm going to talk about today is a film I had heard a lot about for some time. It was a lost film for decades until a bad print was found in the 60s, and later a much cleaner print was found in the 90s. It is called The Ghoul, and it stars horror film legend Boris Karloff as a very weird Egyptologist named Professor Morland. He is dying, and he believes that if he is buried with a jewel he has stolen in an Egyptian-style tomb he has constructed at his home, that the god Anubis will grant him eternal life. Morland dies and is buried in his tomb, but the jewel is stolen. Meanwhile, two of Morland's relatives, Ralph Morland and his cousin, whom he is not on speaking terms with, Betty Harlan, arrive for the reading of the will and senses something wrong. Professor Morland rises from his tomb to reclaim the talisman and punish the thief. But who did it? Was it a servant, one of the relatives, or an Egyptian who wants to reclaim it from where it was stolen? Now, the film was made in England in 1933 for Gaumont British Pictures, the same studio where Alfred Hitchcock was making some of his best British films, like the original version of The Man Who Knew Too Much. Now, in the end, I felt a little bit let down with this particular film. I mean, the first 25 minutes I thought the picture was going great, and I liked bits and pieces of the ending, but I thought the movie did not have enough scares. The script seemed to go slowly, and I found myself losing interest. Now, for those of you that saw my Bela Lugosi collection review, I am a fan of old classic films, and this film I just didn't enjoy as much. Now, the good thing about the movie is Karloff does his usual best with the material he is given. However, he dies and he only shows up during the last act of the movie, but the decaying corpse makeup that he has is really very creepy and very good in my opinion. The film had great lighting, the sets were impressive and creepy, and the score really added to the film, but the production I thought was stagey and the film could be plotting. Now, the acting here is a bit of a mixed bag. Because the British studios were still using stage actors who were trained to speak very loudly in the theater because they didn't have sound systems at the time, and they had to project to the back of the theater so that they could be heard. In Hollywood, by this time, they had just figured out how to act for the cameras, but here, it seems the British studios were still adjusting, which is fine because Hollywood went through a phase like that from, I believe, 1928 to maybe about 31. They were still doing loud stage acting. Now, there are some actors in the film that are comfortable here with the film acting. Besides Karloff, Cedric Hardwicke as the executive of the estate is very good. Stage actor Ralph Richardson, who is making his film debut here as the vicar, doesn't do any stage acting, and he seems already comfortable with the camera. But the actors who play the nephew and the cousin seem to play like they are on stage with their very, stiff movements and a very loud way of speaking. I think the plot, the sets, and the film's atmosphere were excellent, but in the end, I felt like it just didn't completely work. Now, if you're planning on watching an older film from the 30s for Halloween, I really don't recommend The Ghoul. For Karloff, at his best, I recommend something like Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Black Cat, but really not The Ghoul. Alright, and that's my take on the film. If you have seen the film and you want to tell me what you thought of it, go ahead and post any type of feedback that you want, and thank you very much for watching.